Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are digging into the story of a plant that is, well, absolutely majestic, but it's hiding a really dangerous secret. I mean, it looks like it's straight out of a storybook, but if you touch it, you could end up with some serious, long-lasting injuries. So, what are we talking about? Giant hogweed. And this plant's stunning looks are just a cover for a pretty serious public health risk. It's an invasive species, and it has spread like wildfire across Europe and North America, basically turning beautiful, scenic riverbanks into total no-go zones. Okay, so to really get a handle on this threat, let's treat it like a crime scene. What actually happens when your skin touches this thing? Well, it all comes down to a really nasty chemical reaction. The condition it causes has this crazy long name, phytophotodermatitis. I know, it's a mouthful, but the name actually tells you everything you need to know. Phyto means plant, photo means light, and dermatitis is just inflammation of the skin. So put it all together, it's a chemical burn that gets switched on by plant sap and sunlight. So how does this attack work? It's basically a three-step process. Step 1, the plant's clear, watery sap gets on your skin. You might not even notice it. Step 2, sunlight hits that sap, and that's the trigger. It activates the toxins inside. And then step 3, and this is the really scary part, those now activated chemicals literally bond with your DNA. They kill your skin cells, and that's what causes those awful, painful burns and blisters. The actual chemical weapons in a sap are these compounds called furanocoumarins. Now, don't worry about memorizing the names. That's not the important part. What you do need to know is what they do. They basically make your skin completely defenseless against UV radiation. It's like they remove your skin's natural sunscreen, making sunlight itself toxic to your own cells. And look, we're not just talking about a little itchy rash here. These are real-world, documented cases, and they show just how bad it can get. You've got a kid just playing outside who ends up with skin loss and scars that might never go away. A landscaper just doing his job gets covered in severe blisters. These injuries are no joke. They're serious enough that people end up in specialized burn units. Okay, so this brings us to a really crucial point. You've got to know how to spot this thing before it gets you. Being able to identify it is without a doubt your best defense, especially since it has a few harmless lookalikes that can easily throw you off. One of its most common lookalikes is the native cow parsnip, and that's what makes telling them apart so tricky. Now, sure, size is a big clue. Hogweed can grow up to a ridiculous 18 feet tall. But the real dead giveaway, the smoking gun, is the stem. Giant hogweed has this thick stem with these very obvious reddish-purple blotches and coarse, sharp bristles. The harmless cow parsnip? Its stem is just green and kind of fuzzy with soft, fine hairs. Big difference when you know what to look for.
Right, so let's just recap the key signs. If you see a plant that's just massive, and it's got that telltale purple-blotched, bristly stem, gigantic jagged leaves, and a huge umbrella of white flowers on top, you've found your culprit. And the best advice? Just stay far, far away.
You know, this all begs a pretty big question. How on earth did this dangerous invader even get here? Well, the crazy thing is, it wasn't some kind of accident. We actually invited it in. This timeline here really lays out its journey. It's originally from the Caucasus Mountains, way over between Europe and Asia. But in 1817, it was brought to Britain's super famous Kew Gardens. And from there, it was passed around like a prized possession among wealthy estate owners and botanical gardens, spreading all across Europe and, yep, eventually making its way to North America. Back in the 19th century, this thing was a hot commodity, a prized garden curiosity. You have to remember, Victorian gardeners were totally obsessed with anything big, exotic, and dramatic. They loved its massive size, what they called its statuesque architecture. So they planted it everywhere for its looks, having absolutely no idea that they were kicking off a massive public health and ecological disaster. And the price tag for this Victorian obsession, it goes way beyond just personal injuries. This one plant now causes huge damage to entire economies and ecosystems. Just get a load of this number, £4 billion. That's the estimated cost of all invasive species to the UK economy every single year. And you can bet giant hogweed is a major contributor to that absolutely mind-boggling figure. And that cost isn't just one thing. It hits all sorts of different sectors. For agriculture, it can ruin pastures. In construction, if you find it on a building site, it means expensive delays. It even hurts tourism, because who wants to go hang out in parks or by rivers that are basically unsafe? And from an ecological standpoint, oh, it's a total disaster. It grows so tall and so dense that nothing else can survive beneath it. It just shades out all the native plants, creating these huge fields of nothing but hogweed. But then, come winter, the whole thing dies back, leaving the ground completely bare. And that's a huge problem because it leads to massive erosion along riverbanks, which in turn dumps tons of silt into the rivers, choking them out and destroying the places where fish lay their eggs.
All right, so we know the enemy now, right? We know its weapon, we know how to identify it, and we know the kind of damage it can do. So how do we actually fight back against this invasion and do it safely?
Okay, first things first, and this is maybe the most important thing I'm going to say. It's a critical safety warning you'll find in pretty much every official guide. Do not, and I mean never, ever, use a weed whacker or a strimmer on this plant. Why? Because it will basically turn that toxic sap into a fine mist and spray it absolutely everywhere, including all over you.
So if you absolutely have to be near this plant or you're trying to remove it, professional-grade protective gear isn't just a good idea, it's mandatory. We're talking full head-to-toe waterproof coverage. The goal is super simple, absolutely no exposed skin. You really can't mess around with this thing. When it comes to getting rid of it, the pros usually rely on two main methods. For a small patch of plants, they'll carefully take a spade and cut the main root, the taproot, about 10 to 15 centimeters below the ground. That'll kill it. But for a huge infestation, the most effective game plan is a targeted dose of a systemic herbicide, usually applied in the early spring when the plant is just starting to grow.
You know, the whole story of giant hogweed is really just this powerful cautionary tale about unintended consequences. It started out as this beautiful, prized plant from a faraway land, and it turned into a billion-pound problem. It really makes you think, doesn't it? As our world keeps changing, what's the next beautiful monster we're going to invite in? And will we be ready for it when it decides to bite back?